Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to KSR's Rapid Reaction of Kentucky's 76-61 victory over Georgia. The Cats get sweet, sweet revenge over the Lady Bulldogs in what was, was a really stressful game at first. Like for the first, I would say 30 minutes or so of the game, Kentucky trailed at a couple points. Kentucky just really couldn't get out to these leads, and a big part of it was, Amelia Hess and Asia Boone combined for 1-3 in the game, and it was Amelia at the very end. So, for our Kentucky single season 3-point record tracker that we're going to do here, Amelia leads by 1 right now. 87 to, I guess, 86 is the number. But the thing with Kentucky today was Claire Strack, obviously. Career high, tied it with 33 points, made 5 threes, shot 5 of 7 from deep. Let me tell you, for a lot of people online, I saw, of course, there was the discourse about the Kenny Brooks calling her the worst superstar he's ever coached. And a lot of people got offended for Claire for that. But I think it lit the fire under her butt that she needed. And she kind of said the same thing just now in the post-game press conference. When she's hitting threes like that, I don't really know who's going to beat Kentucky. If she's able to, if Amelia Hassett isn't hitting them, if Asia Boone isn't, and you have Claire Strack, 6'5", who can hit threes like that, that's insane. Obviously, I'm here in person. I wasn't listening, but I heard on KS Board, people were saying that on, I guess, the SEC Network broadcast, they were saying Claire Strack is the tallest player to hit 4 threes. At the time, it was 4, now it's 5. Or so 5 threes in a game this century. That's pretty crazy. I would try to look into that stat a little more and be like, well, is she the tallest player ever to hit 5 threes in a game? Because, was someone doing that in the 1900s that was 6'5"? I don't know. But, you show today, and I've been saying it this whole time, really since Tiani Key's come back. Kentucky is playing like a top 10 team in the country. And Georgia, they're ranked number, I think, 22 in the AP poll. You just beat the number 22 team in the country by 15 points. That's pretty close to being a top 10 team for me, Tiani Key, you didn't have her the first time around against Georgia. That was the last game the Cats played before they got her back against Arkansas. And you could immediately see the impact that she makes. First of all, on the defensive end of the floor, of course, we all know, we've seen it all season long, Tiani's so long that she's able to contest down low, right? Even if Claire Strack has some fouls, even if Asia Boone has some fouls and they're on the bench for a little while, well, Tiani Key can kind of hold serve on the defensive end of the floor and really, manage things there. She had a double-double today, I believe. I want to say it was 14 and 12, something like that. But, more than just the box score production, you can see the impact she makes on the defensive end, right? Early on, especially, Georgia was getting some offensive rebounds that I didn't particularly love. Mia Woolfolk was kind of doing her thing for them, and I think that kept them in the game for a while. But then Kentucky started to control the boards a little bit, Kentucky was out-rebounded the first time around. I don't remember the numbers for this one, but I know later in the game Kentucky did lead the rebound battle. I don't know if that finished being the case. But, even if you didn't beat Georgia on the boards, you did enough, obviously. Toni Morgan, I thought she looked a lot better. She had kind of a rocky end, I think, to the regular season, but she's turned the page here, I think, in these last couple of games or so. But, again, it is so nice to see. I said, I think maybe on the podcast, or I was talking with somebody, I said Kentucky cannot afford to go out there and be in a bad shooting slump, right? You could afford that against, 1-16 if you count the SEC tournament, 1-16 in the SEC Arkansas. You can do that against Arkansas. You can't do that against a team like Georgia. And I was wrong, right? I said, if Asia Boone and Amelia Hassett combined for 1-3, you told me that before the game, I think Kentucky loses by maybe 15. But, again, it was the rest of the team that stepped up, and really Clara Strack that stepped up. I didn't realize the number when we were first when we were in the press conference. Tiani Key and Clara Strack combined for Kentucky's 28 of their first 29 points. And I sat there thinking, are they going to have to both score 30 for Kentucky to win? Clearly, they only needed Clara Strack to do that with their career high of 33. But it was just so encouraging to see. Again, if the threes aren't falling at the clip you want them to, Kentucky can find other ways to win. So tomorrow, Kentucky plays South Carolina. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of Gamecock fans here. I'm not complaining about that. I actually don't. I actually love that the tournament's here in Greenville. Um, but, it's going to be a bit of a road game. And that's what it's going to feel like. But, you played South Carolina on Sunday. And look, I get it. You're going to have played 2 games in a row now, and they're going to be rested. Okay, they haven't played since Sunday. But man, Kentucky was right there with a chance to win it on Sunday. I don't see why that can't be the case again tomorrow. Now, I don't know if that will happen, but I don't see why it can't happen. Right? I think you're going to need another big game from Claire Strack. You're going to need her to continue being a great superstar athlete. And I thought it was great in the post-game press conference. Someone asked about the worst superstar comment and what she thought. And she was like, look, I need that tough love. I need that, harsh criticism to get me going sometimes. And, kind of like she was saying, there are points in the season, like it's a long year. You're running from November to March and hopefully April that, it's a long year. And it's like she said, you're going to have lulls sometimes. But you could tell times, kind of towards the end of the regular season, she wasn't playing to the level that we normally see Clara Strack play at. And so he calls her the worst superstar he's ever coached. And she's immediately just become almost an All-American, right? Definitely had that kind of game today. Certainly earned that All-SEC first-team honor with the way she played today. Kentucky, I thought, did a good job of limiting Georgia, too, for the most part. Danny Carnegie kind of got hers. I think I said on the podcast yesterday, that's going to happen. Danny Carnegie, she's not Michaela Blake's level of going to get hers, but she's going to score 15 to 20. You can probably just expect that. But kind of across the board, Georgia tried to muck things up, and that messed with Kentucky early on, right? I'd say for the first 20, 25 minutes of the game, but they figured that out. Kentucky, people like to call this team, I don't know if soft's the word, but, people they have their opinions about Kentucky being long and defending differently. And, that's an unorthodox way to play. And for Kentucky, that works for them. And you see against Georgia, Kentucky doesn't have to play that unorthodox style to win sometimes. They can muck it up too if that's what it becomes. But it was just so nice to see. Again, I just think this is such an encouraging win because, first of all, ESPN's Charlie Cream saw this on Twitter, so I guess it could not be true. But Maggie Davis put it out. We all trust Maggie Davis around here. She posted that ESPN's Charlie Cream said that he's going to put Kentucky in this top 4 seeds in the next bracketology. So, in Charlie Cream's eyes, Kentucky's hosting. Of course, I personally thought Kentucky just needed to make it to Friday to host. Now, Kentucky was not in the latest NCAA committee reveal, the one that actually matters. They weren't hosting, right? They weren't a top 16 overall seed, but I don't know. Maybe they got that today. We'll have to see what the committee says on Selection Sunday, March 15th. But I think for Kentucky, you got a 15-point win over an AP top 25 team. And I don't think there's a whole lot to complain about really moving forward. So, again, just an encouraging win, I thought. And you won in a way you probably didn't expect to win. But, again, you got it done, and that's what matters because now Kentucky has a shot at revenge again when they take on South Carolina tomorrow, noon Eastern Standard Time on ESPN. So, I'm Phoenix Stevens here with KSR's Rapid Reaction of Kentucky's 15-point dub over the Georgia Lady Bulldogs. If you've enjoyed this, like, comment, subscribe, do all those great things for us. I appreciate it so much. Stephen Peak appreciates it so much. All of us here at KSR appreciate it. In the comments, let me know, how did Kentucky win today? Do they have a shot tomorrow against Don Staley and the Gamecocks? How realistic is it that Kentucky gets it done tomorrow? Is Clara Strack the GOAT? Saw that on KS Sport today. Is she? You tell me. Until next time, thank you all so much. Thank you for tuning in. Peace out, and go Cats.